Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Launchpad with Moon Landing. My name is Chris, and today we're with a very special guest all the way from NYC. Please welcome Gromo. What's going on, man?
Hey man, not much. Good to see you. Nice to meet you. Good to be on this platform and chatting with you today.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you too, my man.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
when they sent you to me to do the interview, I noticed that they said that you were big into the street culture and it's been a big part of your base and the platform that you created for yourself. So I also had to ask, since you are NYC based and you love street culture, are you a sneakerhead?
Yes. I can say that right now my sneaker days have gone down a bit. Like during the pandemic, I was super into sneakers. Like I feel like fashion in New York in the pandemic kind of went crazy, even though everyone was like in lockdown. But where I am, I'm like on like the Lower East Side near Soho, where all like the fashion people are and all the activities. So people were so into clothes and all these different kind of like pop-up like retail, not retail, but the what do you call them? Like the resellers. They have all these reseller sneaker places. Like there are three of them like on my block. Like so they've been all over the place. So the market got so oversaturated. I was really into it. But now I'm like, you know what? I'm going to spend the money I make on my gear instead of sneakers. I think I have enough. I think I have everything I need right now for the next couple years. So I'm just going to live with what I got and kind of just like call it a day. But yes, I love sneakers. Like sneakers are definitely one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I feel you there, man. Like I love sneakers too, and it's just been a dream to just shop in Soho and all of the little hidden spots in New York City too. Did you have any favorite sneakers that you like, or what are you even rocking right now?
I'm just wearing some flip-flops right now. I'm a no shoes inside type of individual. It's more of my style. But I there are these sneakers that I got during the pandemic that are like at any sneakers I bought, they're my favorite and they're the most like commented ones I get like on the street when people say they're like, oh, what's that? Or they already know it. It's made by this guy named Ore. Um, his name is Ray Manga. I think he has a YouTube channel where he reviews a bunch of fashion stuff that he likes, and he also makes sneakers. So he made these kicks with the Statue of Liberty on the side, and then the New York skyline,
Ooh.
and then inside in the sole, there's a New York subway map. It's called the OREE Array NY Dunks, and they are like the coolest and they're the most comfortable shoes I've ever gotten. And I'm also repping my city, so they're already my favorites, and I'm wearing them a lot now. Like when I first got them, I didn't really touch them, but then now I've been like wearing them constantly. They're like my favorites. And then I have some black Air Forces, black Air Forces, but they have the silver on it. They have like a silver tongue on it, which is kind of cool. So we kind of switch it up. It's not all black Air Forces.
Nice. Dude, that's so sick. And you're representing your city well, especially on your feet, man. I
Yes,
love that.
exactly. I have to. Just have to. Anywhere I go, they're gonna know. Oh, he's a New Yorker.
Yeah, exactly. That's so dope. But especially in the street side of the culture, especially in NYC where you grew up, who have been some of your biggest influences when it comes to infusing the street culture into your unique sounds and music, even?
I feel like some of the things that really kind of resonated me when I was young, just seeing like New York street culture was like the first time I saw like ASAP Rocky when he put out the video for Peso. I just distinctly remember that, just how he was showing where he was from in New York and the style, like the big Adidas and the gold chains and the black scale. Like that was just like totally sucked me in, and that brings me back to middle school days. And I was just like totally into that. So he was like I think from like New York standpoint, like him definitely. And I think a lot of us from New York can say that Rocky was like definitely put on the city in a big way in like the 2010s, just from his style, the samples he was picking in his music, and just kind of just his energy was very much New York. So I think that was one of the biggest influences for me. But then over the years, it's just been like the people I grew up with in like the New York music scene and DJ scene, just seeing what different people are wearing and just kind of, you know, finding like my own style through it. And I think someone also I can say too, but he's not from New York, who's like a major like influence musically and fashion wise, has been Mac Miller. Like he's always was someone who I looked up to, just for the fact that, like, you know, he just never really cared what people, you know, thought of him. Even when he was in his kind of like frat bro era, that's when I got into him. When he was doing all like the kids stuff, like I was like so into that. And I just remember I was like, okay, like I want to dress like that, I want to look with that, I want to wear a Diamond Supply. Like that was so cool just seeing that. And yeah, like he was one of those people who really inspired me, and especially his music. Like he's one of my favorite artists ever. But yeah, him, ASAP Rocky were like my first real introductions to like street culture and just like fashion and music, and just kind of learning more about really cool production as well.
That's awesome, man. A bunch of blasts from the past too. Like you said, Mac Miller, especially when he dropped for me, like Nike's on My Feet was such a great track.
Yep.
And it was an ode to the sneakerheads too, even if you weren't into sneakers yet. And especially ASAP Rocky too. And like you said, the big Jeremy Scott Adidas with the wings on them that he wore.
I had to get him. I had to get him.
As soon as I saw that in his video for Peso, I'm just like, what are those? I need those.
Yes. And I never thought about Adidas until I saw it on his feet. And then I was like, Adidas, I need Adidas now, because I was always like Nike.
Yeah, exactly. And like even Black Scale, you don't hear a lot about anymore. And I always thought they were super dope.
Yeah, they were like a really cool, like kind of like style, just because it kind of had like the goth style mixed in with the streetwear style. And they had their store down in Soho. I forgot what street it was on. It's close to where I live now. And I just remember first time going down, and you just walk down these steps and you just be in this little store and you see all these different clothes. My parents usually went with me, but they never really got it. But I was super into it. I have a heavy metal background as well, so it was kind of easy picking the black clothes. I was just like, just need more black.
You never have too much black.
Yes, exactly.
I love that. And what's so iconic, I think, about New York, especially like music wise, is when it comes to hip hop, it's the Mecca. Yes. And you have to respect that, and you have to know 100%. That if you know anything about music.
Yeah.
And you especially, like, you've had the chance to collaborate with so many talented MCs and producers like Devin Terrell, like Jack Freeman and Tamara Jade, who I think was on The Voice, I believe.
Yeah.
And who have been some of your favorite artists to work with over the years?
Some of my favorite artists, one of them, is it strictly hip hop?
No, it doesn't have to be.
Okay. One of my favorite artists I've worked with over the years is this artist, Ria Raj. She's her background is Indian, but she, grew up like kind of a little bit all over in Texas, New York, LA. We did a song during the pandemic called Slowly, and now she's just killing it. Like she's crushing it. She's like super like crazy talented. Like I'll come into a room and she'll just have like all the foundations, just ideas. Like there'll just be a hit song right there, and I'm just always just like, whoa, like, let me just add my thing to that. She's just such an amazing, talented artist. I really have always loved working with her. And then this other artist I collaborated with, Hush, who I reached out to on SoundCloud so many years ago. And he's an amazing top liner, writer. And I remember when we first got in the studio in LA, and just like, it was one of those things where you meet an artist who you really vibe with, and then the songs just come. And that's rare, because like I've done a lot of sessions over the past couple of years, and I haven't had too many of those experiences where you meet an artist where you really vibe with them, and it's like there's a connection, and you really like. I think the best collaborations is when the other artist knows your strengths and you know theirs, so you get to kind of like work that really well, and you kind of get to play back and forth with just your ideas and what goes on. And like I'll just remember times just being in the studio with just different artists, and there'd be an idea and we both get like so excited because we know it's just going to be a banger when the lyrics are on it and the top line. And it's like those types of things that really make me love music. But it's hard to find a connection, because a lot of times I find with like working with artists, it's very much nowadays, it's just very kind of like get in a room, write, and just kind of just finish stuff. But I feel like what I've always really liked it is when I find an artist who really wants to go deep with just whatever their vision is and not as afraid to like, you know, follow the path that's going on, but kind of like doing their own thing. And I'm always searching for those really original artists who have their own voice, because, you know, everyone has their own story to tell. And, you know, I'm always trying to look for those people to collaborate with.
Absolutely. I feel like artists nowadays, like you said, they're just so dialed into the machine of just
Yes.
getting in the booth, writing a verse and trying to one up people. But having those genuine connections is when, like you said, the best music and the best projects come out.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really cool when you just like meet super talented unsigned people. Like during the pandemic, I collaborated with this Brooklyn rapper named Mikey Flame, and he has all these great comic lyrics that he just throws in, all these comic book references and all this stuff that you would never just like think of. And you're so clever, and we created like this like hip hop project together. Just like cool stuff when you just meet people and there's a vibe, you know, there's just like good energy. So I feel like I've been very lucky over the years to have sessions where I meet people who, you know, even if over time we are not collaborating as much, we're still homies and we still get to vibe and stuff. Cause like, I think that's the thing I really take out of just working in the industry is like building genuine relationships. Cause that's what really counts at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And that's the only thing that we should be focused on as creatives, is just making those genuine connections and growing together.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, man. I love it.
A lot of time out there. a lot of different experiences. I've been doing this since I was 14 years old, and I've had like 10, almost like 20 years of experience just with all the different things that I've done. So I kind of have like a unique perspective for someone at my point in my career, but I still feel like I'm at like the starting point, which is exciting too, because I feel like I'm just continuing like learning every day. So it's exciting to be where I'm at now, and then have all this kind of knowledge of the things I've learned over the years.
Absolutely. Never a master, but always a student.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, man. And something else that I admire about you very much is that you always add an element of surprise to a lot of the projects you put into. And that's what keeps the excitement up, especially as a listener. And how have there been times where the things that you make have even surprised you?
Oh, that happens when I always least expect it, which is the surprise. It's like sometimes when I'm working on something, like when the idea starts, I may think that it's not good, but then once I get further along in the process, it turns out to be great. So like, I know a lot of times just working on my EP, it's coming out in 2 months. I know that like, just, there were times where I was just working on stuff and I just like, couldn't believe that it's just like, going back to listening to the first mix down to where it is now, I'm like, wow, I can't believe it sounds good. And it feels great just to be at this point where I can be critical of my music enough to know when, you know, I'm not doing my best and when it can be better. And I'm always at that point. So when I can surprise myself and I can listen on different speakers and be like, okay, the song sounds good, because I'm really focused on like a lot of details on sound. So if I'm able to like listen in the car, listen on my iPhone speakers, listen on my laptop speakers, and then on my monitors, and then I'm in my homie's apartment, you know, like that's when I know the song sounds good, and then I can be happy. So if I get those surprises, those are the best for me, honestly.
That's so cool. And sometimes I've noticed too in the studio with other artists is that sometimes they put a little bit too much into a song, and to where it probably distorts it or even takes out the meaning behind it. Have you been in those moments where you just sit down with a producer or vocalist and be like, okay, this is good, but let's pump the brakes a little bit?
Definitely, yeah. Like there's definitely been times where I've been kind of like helping artists learn how to write and how to kind of like phrase things. Like I've done sessions before where I would be like, you know, like helping the phrasing of the lyrics, and then helping with some of the tweaking the lyrics and the melodies, and then the recording and kind of doing all that. So I've definitely had those experiences, but they're so good just because you get to learn so much of how to like direct an artist. And that's such an important part of being a producer. But then the other part too is like when I've been in sessions and I haven't been like the one who's like has all the knowledge, and there are other people. And that's always like something that always gets me to level up. But yes, I've definitely had various different experiences where I've just worked with artists, and you know, I'm kind of guiding them through that process in the best I can, and whatever. Like I always think about the end product at the end of the day, and just like these are just little steps we have to make to get to that end goal.
Exactly. And especially when making those projects and you're producing, I see you as the conductor too. Like you make sure that everything sounds good and is cohesive and turns into something that's meaningful.
Definitely, definitely. That's something I focus on a lot.
It's all a part of it.
Yes, exactly.
And what's amazing about you and your experience is that you graduated from the Clive Davis Institute at NYU, which is very competitive to get into. It's probably one of the most competitive in the world from our
Yes.
perspective. But how much did it mean to you to first get accepted by the Institute and then graduate? And then what were some of the biggest lessons you took away from it?
Definitely. Oh man, like so like I wanted to go to Clive like when I found out that Bob Power taught there. He is the producer for all of A Tribe Called Quest albums, Low End Theory, Midnight Marauders, and that's
Yeah.
music that changed my life. And as soon as I knew he was there, I'm like, I have to go to this school. Like I have to go. I ended up going to a different college for 2 years. I ended up going to the new school for my first 2 years of college, but then I ended up transferring my junior year into Clive. And I just remember like getting my letter of acceptance and freaking out. But then I freaked out even more when I found out that Bob was my advisor at Clive, someone I get to speak to on like a regular basis. Like I was like freaking out, and I was like, couldn't wait for
Wow.
my first day to get into his office and then seeing all of these like plaques of all these like huge records, you know, like D'Angelo and Common, Tribe, and all these hits. And he's just so cool. He's just like, oh man, I just had nowhere to put these damn things. And I was just like, oh my God. But like the thing that's cool with just like getting to know Bob over these past couple years is just that he's like the humblest dude I've ever met. Like there's absolutely no ego, and he's so open-minded, which is super cool. And he just has always the most profound, real things to say. And there's just been things that have like affected me so much and changed my life. And even like during the pandemic, like a lot of us, like I felt like quitting, like I felt like not doing music anymore. You know, I was just like, why, you know, why am I doing this? But he, you know, because for me, I think I have a slightly, you know, different skill, or I have a different vision than a lot of people with music. Like I'm chasing something so specific, and that scares me because sometimes I don't always fit in with what other producers do because I'm chasing that vision. But with talking with Bob, he's like, you know, Bray, like you got something special and unique of your own. You got to use that to your advantage. And ever since then, I've just been doing that. But yeah, like for Clive, like Bob Powers, like the best experience. And I remember during like 2020 pandemic, when I didn't even have classes, like most of my NYU experience was virtual, which was it's still a big bummer, you know, today. And I was able to graduate in person, thankfully, but it was a bit of a miss for me that I wasn't able to really connect as much with my classmates and, you know, the faculty. But, you know, I was able to have a class with Bob during the pandemic, and it was just 3 people in there. And I was like, what, 3 people with Bob Power learning production? I'm like, couldn't get any better than this. And yeah, like for me, just like meeting him and then also reconnecting with my mentor, Dan Freeman, who I learned production from like 10 years ago back at a production school in New York called Dubspot. We met there when I was 13, and we've developed a relationship over time. But, you know, over the years, you know, we were both doing our own separate thing, but we got reconnected at NYU because he teaches there. And then just from connecting with him there, I ended up TAing for him. And I was doing that last fall, and I was TAing the Ableton class and just helping, you know, the students learn more about production, and then, you know, just now working on his album. So, you know, I think there's been a lot of unique things that have come from Clive. It's mainly been like relationships and meeting like really cool, honest, real people. Because that's the thing I struggle with the industry so much, because everything is like super transactional to me personally. And I feel like when I'm able to meet real people who have no hidden agenda, I appreciate that a lot. So it's been cool getting to know all the faculty there and just connecting with them and being able to ask those honest questions that I'm afraid to ask to other people, you know? So you know, just graduating Clive, and it was just like one of the best days of my life. And now just being able to be involved there, just helping other people and giving back is something that's like super important to me. So it's been easily one of the best experiences of my life for sure.
Dude, that's amazing. Like you're literally living every music kid's dream just even by going there alone.
Yes. I'm
Yeah.
very grateful.
Yeah. Have there been times where you go back to the institute and students are starstruck by you?
Uh I don't know starstruck, but I know people are always happy to see me. I see some of my homies there and just different people and just I think over the years like I was able just to like spread my name out because I just got involved with things. I always try to put my name with whatever activities were going on, so the name spread. I always just I've always believed that no one just comes to you. You need to go to the people. You need to do what's, going to get you seen. So I've always just did my best, during the pandemic to get my name out. Like I did virtual DJ sets for Clive. So the name was there. So I definitely had a couple of people come up like, oh man, I loved your set you did. So yeah, it's cool. And, I love, helping people. Like I think that's something so important to me. And it's been so ingrained in just like what I want to do as an artist is give back to people and really give them valuable advice, because that's something that I, was fortunate enough to get when I was young, just have mentors who really like guided me and gave me great advice. So I think for me, that's, the next part of my evolution as a creator and artist is just to, help other people. So going back there and TAing and, helping students out, learn Ableton, talk about whatever production they're doing individually and songs, it's been really cool. So I'm kind of continuing on that as well.
Dude, that's amazing. And keep on doing it because you might bring up the next generation of musicians.
Yeah, that's the goal. You always got to inspire the next, and that's always what I've learned from my mentors. So I feel like they just passed the torch to me, so I'm passing the torch to someone else now. That's what it's about.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. And speaking of passing the torch, not only was the torch passed to you at the Clive Davis Institute, but you also got passed the torch when Ultra Worldwide came to you, which was unheard of from most artists too. And you got their attention significantly. And how did it feel when you got the call from Ultra Worldwide about going and performing at different places? And how were those performances helping you grow?
I couldn't believe it. I freaked out just because like during that time in my life, like I totally sucked myself into the music. Like I was lost in that. Like for me, like at that point in my life, I was super confused with myself and just really kind of struggling and not fitting in with the people around me. Like when I grew up, like everyone was into sports and other things and gossip, and that's just not me. I'm like totally into the music. So I just got so into DJing and just focusing, throwing my own events in the city and just networking and building, at 13, 14. And then being able to be like 16 and find out that I'm playing Ultra, like all this hard work that I put in, just, it pays off. And it was an incredible experience. And I played 10 of them, and each event has always been very different and different size crowds, different energy. But I feel like, just being able to play there was such an honor, and it was so cool at a young age just to see how it really is and just get that inside scoop.
Yeah, exactly. And even from those experiences, have there been any favorite places that you've performed over the years?
Yeah, definitely. Like I really enjoyed playing in Bali and going to Seoul. Those are like two places I really enjoyed. Tokyo was really cool. And just seeing how like different types of music plays well for different types of crowds in different countries. I've always found that to be really cool. But yeah, Bali was a super highlight. I love going there and all the beaches and all the cool wildlife there. That was a really unique experience. But Seoul was really awesome. Like it was a really cool city. I really enjoyed it. And then also Croatia was super fun. Europe crowds are my favorite just because they're so into the music, and I love that. And in New York, these days the scene is, I wouldn't say it's in the best place it's ever been. Like I feel like there's people are still trying to figure out what's going on right now in the scene here. So, kind of like being in New York and watching the scene, then going to Europe and then seeing how the crowds react and how people are just really into the music, that always super inspires me. So I'm always just one like tapping into that, community there and just like putting out my name and just like, just trying to build myself. But yes, like there've been so many unique places I've been able to play and just meet, really awesome people and just learn more about different cultures, which I love.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned that the scene here in New York, especially, is in kind of a weird place right now. So, from your perspective as a producer, where do you kind of see that shift going?
Oh man. Oh, I ask myself that question every day. I do. I do. It's really hard just because, like, I know people are going to get mad at me saying that, but I just don't think that people in New York right now are as focused on the music as they're focused on the actual event and experience. I think everyone right now, being locked up for 3 years, everyone just wants to socialize and have a good time. We miss that human connection. So I think people are searching for that more than anything than kind of that. So people are looking for experiences less than the song. So I think that with that, it's been more of like a party element, less of a music vibe. But for me, like in the past, it would have been something that's been more discouraging, that people aren't focused on like the actual culture of music. But like for me now, the way I've been approaching it has just been like, let me focus on what I love and what means something to me. And then over time, people will get to that. And if not, that's okay. Like I want to just do what I love and just like focus on that. But honestly, it's like this is what's going to decide like what goes on next. Like we're not going to know. It's going to be the next trend that pops up. So it's really hard to tell. But for me, I keep thinking about it. It's just like it's about experiences that connect people with the music and the environment that they're in. So it just depends. But I think right now it's just a bit slow. But I think over time it's going to get better, and I think there are going to be more unique artists. But it makes me want to work harder, and that's the thing. Because if everyone is thinking about something else, it makes me want to work harder and level up and get better. It actually makes me excited. It's like I just feel like this. Like the landscape's different, so I just get to focus more on myself and do what I love. It's more liberating for me now, which is exciting.
Absolutely. And just touching on those points about especially being locked up for years, and people, not just yourself, but everybody else in the country and even the world, were just kind of in a place where they felt stuck almost. And for you, I love how you pour yourself into your music and use it as a way of lifting yourself out of that darkness and out of being stuck, especially when you describe the process of making the Vortex, which the single is out right now. And for those listening for the first time, what can they expect when they close their eyes and they just take in the sounds that you created?
Like for me with this song, it's like super personal to me because for me, like this is the first time where I made something that didn't have an intention about a number. And I know that sounds weird, like a number. But today, with how artists have to release music, it's so based on numbers. It's like a number on a graph on like whatever. And that, I follow that, I give into that. And I got to this place where I kind of stopped caring about that. And I really wanted to write something that was personal to me. And last year I started, dealing with some various, things in my personal life with my friends and struggling with my mental health and my physical health and like just struggling a lot. And I just went through a time that was just really scary, and I'm still going through it now, honestly. I'm still just trying to figure out my life and just different things, but it's the music. Like it's hard for me to describe because it's, it's keeping me sane, like I had to make something that doesn't let these dark thoughts and images and things, in my mind just like overcome. Like I have to do something, and music to save my life over the years. And, I've been struggling with depression for so long, but it's always been the music that takes me out. And I just always want to be totally immersed with sound and visuals. So the Vortex for me was making an experience to help people who are struggling with anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, suicidal thoughts. Like I don't want people to get to that place. So I want them to have something they can listen to and it can take them away from that stuff. So I wanted to create a landscape of various emotions. So you'll have different highs and lows during the song. So it starts off very kind of, I almost think that you're in a garden by yourself and you're sitting there and you're just processing things you have going on. And then like the light of like the clouds kind of separate and then the sun comes out and it goes over the whole city. And then you're exploring different parts of the city and you're discovering more about the city as well as yourself. And that's something that happened to me a lot during the pandemic, where I would walk around here and just, just see what's going on and just learn more about New York. But even over the last like 2 years, the city's been in a really dark place. And it's been honestly a little scary being here. And it's been kind of uncomfortable just because of the crime level and the poverty and, drug addiction that's been going on. Like, it's crazy. And, it weighs on you. And for me, it's like, I believe that art should be a reflection of the reality that we experience. Like, you can make stuff that kind of takes people away from it, but at the same time, just like put it in their face, show it what it really is. And for me, I thought about the film Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro, and that's like one of my favorite films of all time. And it really paints a perfect picture of New York in the 70s. And for me, I wanted to paint a picture of New York post-pandemic. So I thought about creating this story about people having to, take this pill that reduces violence because crime is up so bad, and you'll just see new things every day of what goes on in this city. So I just came up with a story. These people, they take this pill and then somehow they turn into sex fiends, and then they turn into like sex fiend zombies. I mean, it's just like the craziest wild stuff. Why? I don't know, but that was just the idea. And I wanted to create this visual story that goes along with the music. Because for me, music is more than just like, an auditory thing. It's also something that you see and you experience. There's so many different emotions that come with music. So I found this digital artist named Dead Handed on Instagram, and he did some work for Hudson Mohawk for his latest album that came out last year. And I reached out to him, and we've been collaborating the last couple of months on different projects and kind of creating stories. So this one, I wanted to write a script that basically told the story of like a dystopian New York in the next 4 years. Because sometimes I feel like it's going to come, because it's just like, I don't know what's happening every day. And we're all kind of like, what's happening? What's going on? So I wanted to kind of create that. So the vortex for me is many different things. It has so many different meanings. It can either mean the moments in life where you have the most extreme pleasure and then the extreme downs of your life, or then in different moments of just like a different, like a mindset that you have that you're stuck in and you can't get out of. So the vortex can mean anything. So I feel like I want to let the listener decide what their vortex is. It could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. But for me, the vortex is like New York and what's currently happening right now. And then also just what I'm going through, struggling with my own physical health, kind of just dealing with that. So the vortex is a very therapeutic thing for me. And it's like the first release I've been able to put out where I can come back every day and listen to it and be proud of it. Because I struggle with that in my past music. Like with the numbers thing, you can quickly lose your love of the music, because it's like, oh, I got 1,000 views. The song sucks. But that's so not true. That's definitely not true. And lately I've been looking at my releases as just growing experiences for myself personally. And this whole project for me is I'm working on this one in order to grow myself and learn to love myself more and learn more about just all these different things that I've been dealing with and just come to terms with a lot. So for me, success with this project is putting it out there and it helping someone, and then also helping me grow. And then if I get some good views and numbers and streams, that's great. But I feel like it's more the emotional purpose for me. And that's what makes me excited about it. And it makes me so proud of it to present it. So if anyone listens, like, thank you.
Dude, that's incredible. And I love how you broke it down just like that too. And just the comparison to even like the visuals that you created for the project for the Vortex, it was almost like you said, it was like a combination of Taxi Driver and I'm thinking The Matrix 2 combined. Yeah. Especially like with the visual aspect and saying like, hey, you take this pill and all your problems go away.
Yes, because and that's pretty much what it's like. It's always been ingrained. Just like take this, take that, and you get stuck in this mind, in this walking zombie state, and that's the vortex to me. So the vortex has so many different meanings and purposes, but that's what I love about just like music and art, is that you can come up with these things and everyone can interpret things differently.
Exactly. And that, like you said, that's the beauty behind the music, is that interpretation. And what else that I love is that even like you said, it could mean so many different things, but there are people who are in the dark side of the vortex, and you are willing to put yourself out there and tell them that you're opening up about mental health and connecting with fans on that personal level and helping them find the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And have there been any challenges with that in your life where you kind of struggled, like you said, to open up with people in a personal way?
Yeah, it's very hard, you know. Like I've been trying to, you know, talk about this release the past couple weeks and make content and stuff, but I've been finding it very challenging, just because, you know what, like, much respect to everyone, what everyone does, what I see online, it's super exciting, it's cool, but I feel like for me, this comes from such a more personal and dark place in my life, where I don't feel comfortable just going out and talking about what I'm dealing with, you know, because it's so tied into the music and it gets hard. But, you know, I feel like every day, you know, even just being on here and you talking about it is helping me grow, you know, and finding ways to phrase things, you know. So it's always a challenge to talk about it. But, you know, I feel like, at least for me, you know, I have a therapist, but I you know, implore anyone who's struggling with mental health to have a therapist and someone to talk to, because it really does help. And I've been working with someone great lately, and it's been so helpful to me. So I definitely think, just for anyone struggling, you know, please, you know, talk to someone. Like, don't keep it inside, because it'll just make it a lot worse, and it's not good. But yeah, like I struggle with my mental health every day, and I've been struggling with this illness called IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and I basically can't eat any food lately. I get very sick when I eat food, and it's been really tough on me. And, you know, I'm always trying to keep a positive mindset and, like, push through all this different stuff that I'm dealing with. But I feel like I want to look at my story as like that, you know, like, if I can do it, you can do it as well, you know?
Absolutely. And I don't think people really understand the value of having someone in your corner that's willing to listen to you, especially when times are really rough, like you said. And it's just something that I feel like everybody needs to experience at least maybe once a week, if not just with a therapist, but just with a close friend or a close homie or even your parents.
Yes, definitely. Like, it's from years of just myself, just, you know, sheltering off different things to people. It doesn't help, you know? And it just, you know, it keeps you isolated, and it puts you in a vortex, you know? And I
Yeah.
feel like for many years I was living in my own vortex of just lost in my own thoughts. And I feel like now the biggest thing for me is that I've come to a point in my life where I'm able to identify the things that are getting me upset, like the different things that trigger me. I'm able to identify in that moment. It's like, oh, it's that thing that's bothering me. You know, I'm not there yet. It still hurts. It's still hurting me, but I'm a work in progress, and I'm going to keep getting better every day. And just me putting out this music is putting myself out there and working and improving my mental health. So for me, that's just the only goal right now, is just to just get myself healthy again, and just enjoying life, and just, you know, just experiencing different things, you know?
Exactly. Just getting 1% better each day goes a long way.
Yes, exactly.
And just even being locked down, you've also been recognized at one point by the Recording Academy, who run the Grammys.
Yes.
And even during those COVID lockdowns, did that mean a lot to you when they came to you and said that we wanted to get to know you and your schedule and even the little things about your everyday life?
Yeah, it was awesome, and it was also a little awkward too, because I was so figuring out everything, and I'm like, oh man, like, what do I put? I'm so nervous to talk about my day, because it's hard to talk about it, because I'm working on music 9-10 hours a day. Like, I do not stop unless I'm watching movies. So my day consists of eating, movies, music. You know, music,
Yeah,
movies. You know, nothing
in
that.
that order.
Yes, exactly. And so, but it was so cool, just, you know, being able to, connect with them there. And then even just through, the producer club I'm a part of, called the Antisocial Producer Club. They have a collaboration with the Grammys. So I've been able to connect with the people over there through that. So it's been super cool connecting with them, and, going to the events and meeting all the different people. So yeah, it was super exciting being recognized by them.
Yeah, and even that is an accomplishment in itself. Like that's something that everybody strives to do.
Yes.
And I saw on, I believe it was called Elon Productions, that dubbed you as the voice for the voiceless, which I thought was very significant. And there are so many out there, like you said, who struggle to find their voices and just get caught in this continual vortex, whether it's positive or negative. But what big piece of advice would you give to someone to help them pull out of that dark time?
I think it's being honest with yourself and being able to really identify triggers when they come on and understanding what they are, because it's scary when you don't know what's bothering you, when you have anxiety, something's really stressing you out, you know, and you just get this point where you lose yourself. And you know, that's happened to me so many times, but I feel like now that I've learned more about myself and I've grown, I've been able to identify those things. So I think, you know, being able to get comfortable with yourself and identify the things that are stressing you out, and, you know, being able to do that, it helps a lot. You know, for me also, I'd say, you know, find a hobby or a passion, but, you know, not everyone has that. And that's so unfortunate. I think about it every day. I'm like, I'm so blessed to be able to have a, you know, have a musical ability, you know, like I'm so grateful I have something I can do that can express these emotions, you know. And that's the thing. It's like, I realized at a young age that I really am, you know, I struggle with my mental health, and I figured that out. And for me, it was just like music. I just got to do this. It's the only thing that makes me happy. And movies. So it's just like music and movies. So I just totally sucked in on both. And over time, it's been cool just kind of how both of them kind of connected. But yes, like I think for other people, it's definitely just learning what gets you upset, and then being able to be honest with yourself and understand that it's just like a moment in time, you know, and that things will work out. And just definitely talk to people. Don't be afraid to like speak to people. But then also at the same time, really watch out who's in your circle, because I learned at some point during the pandemic, if you surround yourself with negative energy, it can really mess you up. So keep positive people around you at all times, you know, because that'll always help your mental health if you have good people who are in your corner and are there to support you, and there's a mutual support of each other. That's always been helpful. So yeah, so having real honest people, you know, around you is so important.
Absolutely. And just having those honest people, like you said, could make the difference between your life going up or going down, or just going all sorts of different directions.
Yes, exactly.
And yeah, and speaking of movies, what has been a favorite of yours so far?
Oh, man, this list is way too long. I like I got into movies the same time. I since I was young, I've always been like, when I first started like watching movies. I remember the first time I really learned I loved film was like watching the Indiana Jones series and the James Bond series and Harry Potter. Like just watching those, I realized how much I love movies. But yeah, it wasn't until I really started digging into like Martin Scorsese and watching like Goodfellas and Taxi Driver and Casino is one of my favorites, and The Departed, all that stuff that really got me into the movie world. But then also horror movies. I became a huge horror fan, you know, at a young age, watching like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. Yes, I was a very unusual kid. I was just loved horror, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and all those, The Shining, all those films I fell in love with. But at the same time, what was cool is that I also started falling in love with synths through that, because horror movies use a lot of synths in their score. So I just started falling in love with just the sounds of Prophets and Moogs and all that stuff. So it was really cool. But like lately, I saw Oppenheimer the second time, like this over the weekend, and it was just as amazing as the first time. It was super cool. I really enjoy that. And then I've been really into international films, and I saw a cool film at the IFC Center called Old Boy, which is by forgot the name of the director, and it's spacing out of me right now, but it's a film from 2002. It's like an action crime film, and it was super cool. So I'm kind of like all over with films. I love David Cronenberg. It's what I'm wearing right now. Videodrome, like one of my favorite movies. I'm crazy. I have a Scanners cup. I don't know if you've seen Scanners before. Have you seen that movie?
I don't think so, no.
It's one of my favorites. I have a mug from it. Big sci-fi horror fan. You know, I got all these little like action figures. Like I have Alex from Clockwork Orange and Freddy Krueger. We're definitely like character. I have so many of these little guys like hanging around here. It's just all this inspiration. You know, like for me, like cinema takes me away from everything. It's the same thing as music. Like it's that time when you get to go in the theater and like you're not on your phone, you know, you're not looking at your phone, it's off. And that's a beautiful feeling when you're totally sucked in. And I definitely, just from over years of like, you know, loving film and then music, I got to a point where I was like, why not just combine both of these things that I love so much? Because I can talk just as much about film as I can about music. So they're just two things I'm passionate about. And yeah, I just love so many different, parts of cinema. I'm definitely a big crime thriller guy as well as sci-fi. So those are kind of my favorite, but 80s horror movies and 90s thrillers, those are like my favorites.
Dude, that's so sick. I feel like you would love the I believe they shot it in Denmark. It's like the original trilogy for Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I
I
don't know
need
if
to
you've
watch
heard.
that. Yeah, that was on my list. I saw the first one, but I wanted this, that was like the next thing I was gonna watch. It said Denmark, right?
Yeah, I believe the original one was in Denmark. It's 3 movies.
Oh, yeah, I gotta watch them. I forgot the actress who was in it. I know she was in Alien Covenant. I forgot her name. She's so good. She was in a couple other things. I'm not the best with names. I can't lie. So that's when I'm on the spot. I'm not the best with names. But yes, that's on the list. Like I'm just watching a lot of different stuff now. I feel like when I'm not making music, I just like watching movies. So then it kind of takes me away, and also cool scores. Like film scores, always a big influence. Ludwig Göransson is like one of my biggest musical inspirations during the creation of the Vortex, and also Daniel Lopatin, who goes by One Tricks Point Never, who did the scores for Good Time and Uncut Gems. Never huge inspiration of mine, and obviously Hans Zimmer. So like I gotta shout him out, and then people like Danny Elfman, I really like, John Williams, and there's some other cool horde and guys who did some really unique scores, so yeah, it's kind of like spread pretty wide.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that so much. And then living mainly in the East Village area of town, aside from just what you see in cinema and with other realms of music, you do like to take walks around the city, right?
Yes, I love taking walks. That's what I was thinking about doing after our chat, was going on a little adventure.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. Where's some of your favorite sites to see, even if it's in your own neighborhood?
I really like going over to the Washington Square Park. It's really fun. Certain areas. There's one side that I wouldn't say walk on, but then there's the areas in the center. They're good. I really enjoy it. I like going to like Soho is really fun. I like going over to St. Mark's. I like down near the World Trade Center. There's a really nice place where you can walk. And yeah, I've done so many different walks around the city. Like during the pandemic, especially, I did like 3-hour walks just to get my legs moving, after being stuck inside. But yeah, I think some of my favorite places is always near the water in the city. Like one of my favorite places, it's not actually somewhere you walk, but it's where you drive. Like I like the FDR Drive at night. It's a very specific things, but I like seeing Brooklyn when you're looking across at night with all the lights. It's just for me, I don't know, it just takes me to a place. And I always think about my music and just riding around the city at night. That's a very particular feeling that I'm always chasing. And there are definitely different albums that I've listened to over the years at night where I'm just, riding around in a car with some friends and we're just listening to different stuff. And that's always some of my favorite things to do in the city, is just kind of get that night inspiration.
I love that. And especially in New York City, there's so many things that don't happen every day. And have there been any surprises around the city that you don't often see?
Yeah, the surprise was that thing that happened at Union Square a couple weeks ago with I forgot that guy's name, but we had all the games and it had like thousands of people, like were throwing stuff and they went crazy like that. It's just like, what? But it's New York. It's just gonna happen. The last night I was out, I was like trying to go to bed, and there was like this like marching band was playing. And it was like they had all the drums and the horns, and it was like 12:30 at night, and I'm like, yo, I want to sleep.
Yeah.
So you never know in New York. You never know what's gonna happen. But the biggest disappointment for me this year, it was just a surprise in New York, was missing the Skrillex Fred Again and Fortet set. I missed every event.
Man.
I couldn't go to any of them. So sad, so upset, still really hurt about that. Try not to talk about it too much, but yeah, it's like that was one of the biggest upsets of this year, and just like I wanted to go so bad, but just inconvenient with what I was doing at those moments. Big frustration.
Doug, even just going to the Times Square one where they were just playing off of a bus, I would have went nuts seeing that.
I know, and I was, and like it took me like maybe like a month to watch that set and then fall in love with it. But I was here and I was doing actually some work for the Vortex. So I'm like, you know what, I got to focus on my career. Skrillex can wait. I was actually able to meet Sonny a couple of times and when just to DJ.
Really?
Ultra, yes. And like he's the reason why I'm producing. Like before I was playing a lot of guitar and heavy metal, and it wasn't until Skrillex where I just fell in love with production, and just because he's always had that rock and roll energy with him. So I've always just been such a huge fan of his music. And like I just remember like in 2015 being able to, you know, be on the side stage when Jack U was performing with Justin Bieber and being there.
Oh man.
Like, yeah, like some of those really special moments in EDM. And just I met him like a couple of times and just had like nice quick chats with him, but he's such a super cool dude, and yeah, such a big inspiration in me. And you know, he's always just inspires me also because he's adopted too, and I'm adopted as well, and finding that out has always meant something to me. And I remember just telling him that and like how much, you know, that inspired me, and he was just so cool about that. So yeah, shout out Skrillex.
Yeah, shout out Skrillex. The genuine connections are still there.
Yes.
I love that. Well, I've been over the moon and back talking to you today, and you guys can stream the lead single for the Vortex out now on Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you listen to music, and even follow Gromo on his social media and get to know him even more. And thank you for joining us for another edition of the Launchpad on Moon Landing. My name is Chris, and Gromo, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Moon Landing. I appreciate all the time today. Good talking with you.
Absolutely. We'll have to do round 2 soon.
Yes, most definitely.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
All right, man. Have a good one. Thank you.